So we have a bit of a shorter schedule today, given we have an exciting guest later on. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, it'd be good to hear from those guys.
Hmm. So for those just tuning in, we'll be starting with a brief recap, or a briefer than usual brief recap of the biweekly update posted as usual in the Discord and subreddit. And then we'll be jumping into a conversation with Block Native. Right. So, how has the protocol been doing over the past 2 weeks? Things are trucking along just fine. Masari, a crypto analyst research firm, put out an article comparing how Rocket Pool has been growing compared to Lido and others, and noted that though Lido still led in absolute terms of ETH stake, Rocket Pool had outpaced everyone in terms of relative growth and was second in terms of absolute growth. So, any comments about the state of the protocol's growth?
Yeah, it's extremely positive. It's obviously it's exciting that we're kind of growing. I think we got to 8,000 validators. You know, what seems like an eternity.
9,000, I believe.
Well, we got to 8,000 and then we just
Yep.
smashed through 9,000 in like no time
Yeah.
at all. So that definitely that kind of up swing on the kind of adoption curve is definitely kind of has been kicking in for a while. But particularly after the merge, I think the merge you definitely notice a massive kind of up swing in things after the merge. So yeah, it's really cool to see that.
It was kind of poetic to see the merge coincide so well with the incentive management committee as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, we kind of created a perfect storm for ourselves.
Yeah.
But it would have been good to have done it separately so that we could figure out the benefits of both. But at the same time, like it's great. The deposit pool's full, obviously. It has been for a good little while now. So that's fantastic. Yeah, the growth is really good. Now we really just need to kind of obviously scale that node operator side. We're still getting a good amount of node operators in through the door, and the mini pools are spinning up. But we do kind of need the kind of Atlas to kind of take us to the next level, which is good because it's on that horizon. So we're pretty close.
Yeah, it's sort of this eternal pendulum balance we have to strike between managing the rETH demand and managing the node operator supply. So I think the protocol is doing a pretty good balance of it so far, and with Atlas, things will be taking a huge leap. So
yeah, that's right.
in terms of the Smartnode, version 1.7 is going to be delayed a little bit because of the fee distributor contract fix. Can you talk to us a little bit about what this fee distributor contract fix is?
Yeah, actually, I think we're waiting for. I think we're actually waiting for a few things now. But so the main reason why we didn't want to do it was because of the reward period. We just wanted to get the reward period kind of out the way, because I think it has something to do with the reward period. So one of the improvements is the way like with the trees, the format of the tree or something like that. So it kind of affects that. So we wanted it after the reward period. That was kind of the main driver. It also makes sense to kind of do it after we've done the contract fix. That's just more of a safety sort of thing, just to make sure that we're kind of just doing, sequentially, we're doing one thing at a time and not changing lots of things at the same time. So the distributor fix was basically that it was calculating the commission incorrectly, and so and we've kind of like it's like a two-phase fix. We've now we fixed the actual contract itself, so it no longer happens anymore. Hang on. I'm trying to remember which way around it is now. It's a little while because we've been waiting for the ODS thing, but essentially it was a two-phase fix. We needed to kind of update the contract and we need to kind of update the commissions to what they kind of should be. So that's in progress now, and so the ODAO will be voting, or we'll be able to vote from this afternoon. Actually, I think it's sometime in the next few hours. The ODAO will be able to start voting on that proposal. And so, we've deployed, so this is actually the deployment of the contract. The contract has actually been verified on Etherscan, and we've kind of sent it through so that everyone can kind of take a look at it and make sure that they're happy with it and that sort of thing. So the ODAO will start voting from this afternoon. We'll obviously cast our votes, and then the ODAOs will cast their votes, and then eventually we can execute it so that it actually comes in. So that will fix the commissions so that people can actually distribute and that sort of thing their priority fees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure Yorick and Superfizz and all the other wonderful ODAO members will have a little bit of time dedicated to making sure the contract is proper, sanity checking it.
Yeah. And actually, in fact, so Sigma Prime have already audited themselves anyway, so that's good.
A redundancy check at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, great to see that chugging along. And for most users, this will just pass on as if nothing really happened. This is really only impacting a few node operators at this point.
That's correct. Yeah.
So, in terms of Atlas, Atlas is largely under a feature freeze, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, although there is quite a lot of discussion going on in governance around one aspect of it. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. I think Kane is doing some governancing at the moment. While I'm kind of doing
as we
stuff.
Speak.
as we say, in fact, that you might hear the beeping that's going on in the background. I think that's good. The governance channel going off.
Keeping that unmuted is a bold strategy.
I should actually do that from now. I think his conclusion that it is a kind of my interpretation was that it was a new feature, but it's not a new feature. It's actually essentially a resolution on the current kind of LEB implementation.
Should I give a brief overview of the situation since
go for it. Yeah.
So largely the issue is that when we switch to LEBs, we've already sort of come to a wide agreement on what the minimum cap on RPL stake should be. And that's sort of the 10% of ETH that's being borrowed from the protocol. Lots of talk went into that, and that's fine and well. However, we sort of never addressed the question of what do we do with the maximum amount, because that sort of was not really relevant to the security aspect. In terms of security analysis, you really want to consider the minimum, and the maximum was kind of an oversight. We sort of just left things the way the chips may fall, as you will. However, now that the conversation has sort of had passed a little bit, people realize that leaving it at a maximum is actually a pretty big decision. The inaction in and of itself is a pretty strong action. So now we are considering, okay, how should we then perceive it? Should we be doing 150% maximum of the node operator's ETH, how much the node operator is giving? Or should we do it how much the protocol is lending to the user, or some other analysis? Essentially, this is important because the incentives end up being quite skewed if we do with the user only depositing 4 ETH, for example, but being able to stake up to 70 ETH or 40 ETH, I'm not sure what the exact numbers were, worth of RPL. So important governance discussion, I believe. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think it is the fact that with LEBs, you've now got this kind of imbalance in the amount that the protocol is giving and the amount that the node operator is giving. So yeah, that's for me is the reason why we have to deal with it kind of now. So so that is an important decision. And there has been a lot of debate on it at the moment. So I'm really just catching up. I've kind of got the gist of everything, but I'm really just catching up. So no, that was good. From our perspective, obviously we want to lock down the scope of Atlas as soon as possible. I'm going to be working with Kane and also obviously the community to figure out, what that can look like. But we do need to kind of make a decision relatively quickly because we do need some time to kind of test before we get to an audit. We've locked in both consensus and Sigma Prime. Currently, consensus is actually quite soon. I think it's like the 14th of November. Is where it's kind of like penciled in for. So we really do need to, yeah. Mm. So we really do. And before we go to audit, we are going to try and get. Well, we certainly need to have our internal testing done. But we would also, like to have some community testing. For the consensus, I don't think that's going to be possible. But for Sigma, there certainly will be community testing as well, before that audit. So yeah, I think with the timeline for Atlas, it's been a bit up in the air, mainly because of we didn't really know what was going on with the withdrawals until we were at DEF CON, and even
right.
then we were kind of trying to figure out what we do with the information that we had. So it's still not completely certain, but we are pretty sure that withdrawals are going to be, early first quarter next year, in which case, Atlas, including our withdrawal stuff, has to be kind of ready before then. So that's why we've kind of kept our audits where they were, and we're kind of going for that. So yeah, that's why we probably haven't been as communicative about our timeline as we probably should have been. But we'll start now that we're kind of pretty set. I can probably start at least communicating the outline of what our timeline is, and also like that. So I think the feature set is in one of the RPIPs. So is it RPIP 12?
8.
I might say it. 8. Oh, it's 8. All right, cool. So in RPIP 8. And it's pretty much the scope of what we've got is pretty much in there. That we do have like a GitHub gist on which shows a little bit more detail. So I can kind of send that through to people so that people start getting an idea. But that's the other thing that we need to obviously start communicating is more broadly is what Atlas involves. We're going through like a massive review at the moment. So Kane has basically got all of the Atlas stuff code complete at this point. And like when I say he has it like yesterday, basically. So we're going through like a massive review at this point. So some stuff might change, but it is it's reasonably set. There is one aspect that we're kind of querying that we're not 100% sure of. But once we kind of work through that, then we can start communicating that a bit more widely.
Great. Yeah. Atlas is going to be huge for the protocol, so making sure the community understands the magnitude of each individual change is going to be huge as we get there. We have a question coming in from Whack Attack, actually a shifting topic slightly, asking, is the withdrawals stuff coded? So I'm guessing this is talking specifically about solo staker migration. So solo migration is coded. Yeah, it's code complete. So it's code complete, but it's under review. So it's not complete, if you know what I mean. in development terms, it's not done. It's code complete in the sense that it functionally works at the moment, but we still need to do our review to make sure that everything's good. And then you find out half of it is buggy or whatever. As possible.
Well, no. I mean, we've got like unit tests and that sort of stuff, but it's more just it's more just kind of reviewing to make sure that everything's been taken care of and that sort of stuff from it's there are many that with especially particularly with smart contracts, the more eyes that you can get on them, the better. So that's what we're working through at the moment.
Has there been any discussion about how we'll approach the front end of the migration? Sort of what the portal process will look like?
In terms of like the solo migration?
Yeah, sort of like how we have the node operator landing page. I'm wondering if we'll have a special landing page for migrations.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. That's not actually something that I've kind of thought about, but it is something that we will need to start putting together. Is a particular. I mean, we've got the node operator landing page, but it's not really specific to solo stakers. It's not really specific to solo stakers. So a solo staker landing page would actually be pretty good. That is a good idea.
Great. Yeah. So we have a question also coming in from A35U who is asking, do we have the code ready to handle skimming withdrawals?
I believe so, but I haven't gotten to code reviewing withdrawals yet. So I believe so, yes. But I'm not.
Has talked about it in trading. I think that sounds correct too.
Sorry, say again.
Oh, just like Kane has talked about in trading, I think you're right.
Oh, right. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I believe the code handles it. But I'm actually going through and doing up like a massive like test, kind of like test sheet essentially. So there's a few kind of like artifacts that we produce when we do our releases. So we do a massive test sheet because although we do unit tests, we also do kind of a manual exploratory tests and that sort of thing as well. So and we've put together like a DevNet. So obviously this won't be a public thing, but we've got a DevNet which we can kind of throw away if necessary, and we can do all the good stuff like bootstrap and that sort of thing on that. So we will kind of iterate on the current code on that DevNet for a little bit, get kind of the Smartnode up to where it needs to be in terms of that as well, and then we'll progress to a Gorilla deployment, so that the whole community can kind of get involved and start testing it as well.
Awesome. With that, I think we should pivot over now to governance topics. A lot to cover here as well. Actually, before that, we have a question coming in, I believe. monkeyontheloose.eth.
Hey.
They are connecting.
Long time RPL holder here. How's it going?
Hey, good to see you.
I just have some specific questions about growth. Like, what's the growth plan for RPL, and like, what are we expecting to see in the near term?
Okay, so obviously we have two sides to our market. So we've got the rETH side and the node operator side. So on the rETH side, it's all about utility for rETH. So getting rETH integrated in as many DeFi protocols as possible. We are working through those integrations at the moment. So I think we managed to land a few of them, but we're kind of working through each of them in turn. The big one that hopefully, I think the executive vote is like yesterday or today, or at least the spell is like that. So MakerDAO are very, very close to incorporating.
The spell vote just went live.
I went live. It went live just on that. Okay, cool, awesome. So that they're close to including rETH as collateral, so you can mint DAI against it. We've been talking to Aave for quite a while. There's a few different steps that we need to do for that. We need the Chainlink Oracle, but Chainlinks are working on that Oracle at the moment. there's some really great stuff on the horizon in terms of kind of rETH utility. We're also getting our OP governance grant as well, so we'll be able to start incentivizing liquidity on OP. So that's another kind of good milestone as well. Now on the node operator side of things, that's where most of our kind of bottleneck is at the moment. Because the deposit pool is full and all that sort of stuff. So the Atlas, which is the release that we were just talking about, that includes dropping the collateral required for a node operator from 16 ETH to 8 ETH. So we're kind of halving it again. So instead of needing 32 ETH to be a node operator, you'll actually need 8 with rocket pool plus the kind of RPL collateral as well. So that's going to be really exciting. That's going to open the doors to a lot more new node operators. It's also going to instantly double our capacity with our existing node operators as well. So yeah, that's a really exciting release for us.
Awesome. How about in terms of marketing? Are you guys? Do you have any plans on that front?
We'll kind of do some targeted marketing as we go through. I think we've managed to wrap up. We've managed to kind of build up some fantastic brand awareness, and we'll kind of keep that going. But at the moment, I think in the short term, no, but probably in the medium term, yes. Yeah.
Though I'd love to give a shout out to our wonderful community manager, Maverick, who is trying to integrate more of our community with our marketing efforts.
Yeah, actually, one thing I would say, I should let Maverick actually kind of take the thing, but what I'm more talking about is like paid kind of marketing. But Maverick does an amazing job of kind of building like an organic base and keeping that going, constantly throughout the day. So
we still have quite a bit of content to get through. We'll try and see if we can do it in 30 minutes or so. We do have a chit chat, which is in less than 24 hours time. So if by any chance there is the odd marketing topic left over, we can always cover it off then. Or there's always next week's community call as well. But perhaps we should circle back, and I'm not sure if looks like he's gone. We had a question to kind of cover off about smart contract risk, and
right.
I guess I could kind of say a little bit about when marketing the kind of rocket pool approach to marketing. This will be recorded, so I guess we should answer those questions, and anyone who's interested and dropped off might catch it later on YouTube. So maybe I'll talk about the marketing first briefly, since that is my area of expertise, at least more so than talking about smart contract risk. But I think for rocket pool, the type of marketing that we engage in is not necessarily as glamorous or as visible that you might get from other protocols in this industry, right? I've kind of talked about this from time to time on some of these calls, and we can get kind of accustomed in the world of crypto or Web3 or blockchain technology, whatever you want to call it, to a meme coin buying out Times Square billboards or sponsoring an entire Middle Eastern airport to get their branding everywhere. And, that's not what we're about here at Rocket Pool, because the marketing has to be a fit for the audience, right? If you're targeting, say, speculators or people who are looking for investment along, say, cultural lines, or to be part of a more like GameFi aligned protocol or universe, that's not really us, right? So who are we wanting to market to. It's people who essentially hold ETH or perhaps hold some other kind of LSD, and they're interested in staking it and earning, what is objectively a low APR. Perhaps not so common now, but certainly go back a few months and you could see protocols offering very safe and stable 20% plus returns. Obviously, that's not what we're about. That's not what Stake ETH is about. And sure, there are some more, I guess, mildly degen strategies that can be implemented in the area, right, in terms of leverage and all of that. But at the end of the day, if you think about the person we're trying to target who might want to stake ETH with Rocket Pool, whether that's an individual, whether that's an institution, or someone who might want to run a node, run Rocket Pool validators, they're probably not only unlikely to respond to some of that more active paid marketing, they may respond negatively to it, right? It may be a turn-off. I would certainly put myself in that category. If a protocol is spending a whole lot on marketing, or heaven forbid they make it one of their USPs that they have a marketing budget. I've seen that a few times. It's a bit of a red flag, and we are interested in this institution space, right? From time to time over the past few months that I've been a part of Rocket Pool, and even ongoing right now, there are institutions kind of reaching out. They're interested in investing with Rocket Pool, perhaps purchasing RPL, running validators, perhaps staking their ETH with us. And that is the area that we're looking to kind of build up Rocket Pool. So kind of that would be my answer, high level, to the when marketing question. We're not interested in paying YouTubers, paying influencers. We're working on things like how should the rETH referral structure work. So if we integrate ETH staking with a wallet, for example, what kind of referral should we pay this wallet provider, who is then essentially going to market Rocket Pool as a product to people who have their wallet? I would include that in the answer of marketing, kind of more the partnership focus. We can leverage some of our partners in these different areas to do some of the heavy lifting for us, and through those partners we can instantly connect with a very large audience instead of us having to kind of build that ourselves. Other examples, right, is talking to hardware providers. Perhaps they have home stakers who purchase staking hardware. They're running their own validator, and as we know, in not too long there's going to be an opportunity for them to potentially convert to Rocket Pool, for us to be able to go to one company that makes node equipment and perhaps put together some kind of incentive or referral deal to target dozens, hundreds of people in one go. Again, it's not as flashy as having an influencer tweet about us, but in terms of ROI, in terms of the goals that we're wanting to achieve, I would say arguably there's much more impact in terms of the outcome with that kind of thing. Obviously, the integration of rETH as an LSD, a liquid staking derivative token, is incredibly important, and it's something that we're continually working on. Already on this call, we touched on Maker. That vote is live now, and I'm fairly confident that that is going to go through, and that we'll see more integrations in the future. We've engaged in some, I guess you could call it like strategic marketing through Bankless earlier in the year, leveraging some of those protocol DAO funds. And there is another piece that the team has paid for. I hesitate to call it similar, but it's additional kind of paid coverage from a large respected institution that should be out towards the end of the year. Not to the same scale as
interesting.
but it's all part of the marketing plan, which is focused on that long-term sustainable growth. It's not a kind of one and done thing where you empty your wallet and you're back to square one a year later. There aren't a whole lot of protocols that have been around and building since 2016 that are, A, still exist, and B, are going from strength to strength like Rocket Pool is doing. Hindsight's obviously 2020, and you could say any number of things about the strategy that the team's taken to date, but I think on those criteria, it's pretty easy to see that kind of Rocket Pool has stood out from what a few years ago was a kind of more crowded landscape, to the point that there are a lot of protocols that have kind of fallen by the wayside, and Rocket Pool's still around, still growing. So I think I probably spoke on that topic for far too long, but to quickly cover off the smart contract risk, and I'll just speak very briefly because, again, it's not really my area of expertise, but maybe Jasper, if you have any comments afterwards, and then we can go into some of the remaining bi-weekly topics. I guess to a certain extent, there is always going to be some degree of smart contract risk. Sure, you can minimize it by only holding ETH, right? That's possible. But I would look at it from the perspective that, Rocket Pool is coming up to their 1 year, what is it called? Battle tested, right? Anniversary.
Oh, yes.
Where Ethereum.org will give us that final green tick on the pooled staking page. I think is it around November 9th or 11th, something like that. So we are starting to get to the point where there are these Lindy effects that take hold, right? Rocket Pool has been around for long enough that you could say, if there is a glaring flaw in Rocket Pool's smart contracts, well, we're now, is it 12th, 13th on the list of the largest Ethereum protocols by TVL. It arguably would have been identified and exploited by now. You look at the audit history of not only the frequency, but the auditing companies that Rocket Pool uses. I'd argue that's best in class. The fact that there's a pretty good bug bounty, which has been has worked, has been paid out in the past on relatively small things, but there's no skimping when it comes to that bug bounty. So in terms of the steps that could be taken, I guess you can also consider the conservative, is maybe the right word, approach to product evolution. I've worked on protocols where there's like 30 devs, and trying to coordinate that many people across different time zones and get out a product that's like solid and sound is pretty tricky. So there are benefits to having a smaller team and working closely together. But yeah, I guess that's my thoughts on the smart contract risk. And should we run through some of these other topics now, Jasper?
Yeah, we have quite a bit to get into, so I think we leave it there, but that was a great overview of smart contract risk. I think it's sort of down only from here on. So, on governance, tons of stuff has been going on. Most notably, perhaps, is that voting is now ongoing for some pretty important roles. I was the former PDAO treasurer, but that was sort of we made the role and we need someone to serve while we can actually figure out how we vote people in. So my short-term interim term has come to an end now that we are ready to vote people in. And so make sure, if you have RPL staked, if you are a delegate or not, that you are voting the PDAO treasurer, and then 7 grant and bounties management committee positions are up for grabs. This vote has a few days left, and make sure you have your say.
Yeah, I just checked for the first time since the votes went live, and we've got 74% of quorum for the GMC membership selection, and slightly less for the PDAO treasurer. That's sitting at 69%, which is pretty nice. But obviously we need to reach 100% for these votes to kind of mean anything and to be enforced. So would really encourage everyone who's eligible to vote, head on over to vote.rocketpool.net.
I will say the competition is very tight between positions 7 and 8, or 6, 7, and 8 essentially. So your vote does definitely matter. All these candidates are very exceptional people. They have great histories of participation in the community, and are all very intelligent and worthy of the position. So yeah, make sure you make your voice heard. Going forward, the IMC budget has been posted by Valdorf. You can find that on the forum. Essentially, things are largely unchanged, and we are doing one round of co-incentives this time with Loopring. But other than that, Loopring as well as Hidden Hand, Aura, rETH, BBA, USD. That's a bit of a weird one. I think we'll talk about that in integrations, but that pool has been a pretty high APR and is really interesting into evolution by balancer.
I actually have not long got off call with Loopring, which was great. So we were just having a chat about a bit of organic co-marketing. We might see someone from their team on one of these community calls in the not too distant future, and likewise someone from the Rocketpool team heading over to their community, which is pretty lively. I've popped in and had a bit of a look around on their Discord. I was trying to think where I heard about them from, and obviously been a bit of coverage on crypto Twitter, but it's of course the GameStop NFT integration that perhaps comes to people's minds. But anyway, that is a complete aside. But yeah, one thing about governance is while, as Jasper mentioned, there are some excellent candidates not only being potentially voted in for the GMC, but we have great people in the IMC. But just like I suppose governance in real life, it's important that there is that transparency there, and it's kind of a two-way thing, right? So Valdorf has put in the time to create and publish this budget, so then it's kind of on us to also engage and to review it, and to have our say if there's something that we want to raise. Obviously, that comes out every month or
every rewards period. I believe the budget is posted 1 week before the rewards period begins.
Okay, good stuff. And then there was a whole lot of other governance discussions, right? I saw a post from Ken earlier this morning. You miss one night of the governance panel, and you wake up to 100 plus comments, and it's not just Discord. There's a lot of action on two kind of topic threads in particular on the DAO governance forum at DAO.rocketpool.net.
You're actually missing one on here because it's so new. There is another one. There are now 3 that are active, I believe.
Let me have a look.
Because Nashua posted a summary of the past couple of days last night, I believe.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So I highly recommend Nashua's post. I think that was a very great overview of the situation and the various sides, but there has been even more development since. So yeah. This conversation is pretty complicated. This is about the maximum RPL collateralization that should be allowed as we switch over to LEBs. So if you're a tokenomics head, definitely get caught up on the several threads that have been written on it. So in terms of integrations, some big news in the world of optimism. So the optimism grants are one step closer, with the ODAO KYC step completed and funding distribution likely to happen fairly soon. And I have no inside information about this. However, I will note that X token and I don't recall Araxis, not sure how to pronounce it, were both awarded their optimism tokens and started their programs, and they were in the same cohort that Rocket Pool is in. So I believe some things are pretty popping behind the scenes, and we might very, very, very shortly see some rETH liquidity incentives going live.
Yeah, I hesitate to say soon because we've been saying that for a few bi-weekly calls so far. But to briefly recap for anyone who may have missed that ongoing discussion, the holdup was purely a bit of admin around who would receive the tokens and how that would be distributed in terms of identifying the individuals and ensuring that they were appropriate people who represented the Rocket Pool PDAO. So all of that has been cleared up. Optimism are happy with the approach, and as per the bi-weekly summary, the distribution of funds are likely to happen within a week's time. So that was within a week as of 2 days ago. So it does sound like soon is now very soon. I can't comment on these other protocols, whether they've been encountering the same holdups, whether this was like a policy change or something. Probably was more of Langer's one. He's handling the day-to-day, but in any case, definitely keep an eye on that, because there are going to be quite a few rewards going live in the near future.
Yeah, if you want to get caught up on some specifics, you can find the old proposal that these rewards will be distributed based upon, but 70% will be going to the Optimism Beethoven X Balancer rETH wrapped ETH pool, and then 30% will be going to the Velodrome bribes for the rETH wrapped ETH pool. Speaking of Beethoven X, which is the Balancer fork on Optimism, the Balancer Labs team added some incentives to the rETH BBA USDC pool. And so this is a bit of a confusing pool, so I wanted to take a moment to explain what it is. So the BBA USD token is made by Balancer. The BB stands for Balancer Boosted, and it is a collection of USDC, USDT, and DAI in a liquidity pool that is then looped in Aave. So you have these Aave tokens in a liquidity pool and wrapped into a single token. What this gives you is a stablecoin, a USD stablecoin, that also has passive yield baked into it. And so if you have this passively yielding USD paired with the passively yielding ETH, rETH rather, you have this cool double yield-bearing LP. So Balancer has been trying to push a lot of their wrapped ETH token, or push several pools towards using these new tokens. And so Rocket Pool is thinking of co-incentivizing this pool, and we are also currently considering incentivizing the rETH RPL pool with 100 RPL per fortnight. However, this is a bit more contentious since incentivizing rETH RPL is not clearly within the charter. There is actually a vote going on the budget proposal that is on the forum about if this pool should be incentivized or not. And that's specifically the rETH RPL pool. There are a few arguments in favor and against. One of the arguments in favor is that boosting boosting rETH and RPL together will create volatility that will drive rETH's utility in DeFi. And boosting rETH's volume and utility in DeFi is within the scope of the charter. And those against will argue that this might be adding or might be an overextension of the charter of the IMC. So if you have a strong opinion, make sure to express it. There is a poll. And if you have questions, make sure to leave it as a comment.
I think we probably have enough time to speed run the media and marketing section for completeness. And if there's any kind of more detailed discussions that come out of any of these points, perhaps.
Before we hop into that, one more integration. Maker, their executive spell to onboard rETH just went live. So once that hits quorum, rETH will be in Maker. However, there will be a 2-week period in which, even when it's live, there won't be any DAI that can be borrowed against it because the Oracle facilitator from Maker has to sort of give a security check. And once that security check is in approximately 2 weeks, then DAI will be able to be minted against rETH. So yeah, that was the last integration I wanted to check off before we jump in. And I see we have a speaker here. Do you have a question?
They might be looking for the mute button, but yeah, on it, here we are. And they're gone. Hope I didn't scare them away. But yeah, obviously Maker is a pretty important one to talk about. I believe at the time this biweekly update was published, the kind of Maker vote was not live yet, but there is a link. Actually, I can probably edit it into the biweekly. Otherwise, I think it's been mentioned a couple times on in Discord, and it may have been tweeted out by one or two people, like our friend the Rocket Pool intern, who I see is in there in the audience listening, very very diligent. Good on them.
Gotta get all the content.
Oh yeah. Okay, so media and marketing. Relatively big couple weeks for media content there. Langers did recover from his DevCon jet lag in time to do a presentation, I think it was about a week ago now, of the Rocket Pool story to a branch of Australian DeFi. So that's the Queensland branch, Queensland being the state of Australia where most of the team is based. And by all accounts, it looked like a pretty good turnout, I have to say. When there are DeFi events down in this part of the world, I just default to kind of having a dozen people show up. But if you click through, click through the link there in the biweekly, you can see some photos of the venue and a pretty good showing. And it sounds like there was some decent interest in Rocket Pool, obviously being a protocol that's pretty large, and to come out of Australia, I think is pretty neat. Then, yeah, I mean, where to start on this? The second point, there was a lot happening with DevCon Bogota. Obviously, the talks themselves were well attended, and there are recordings available if you missed them. We had one from, well, actually, let's start with Ken's talk, who I think I saw was in the audience here on this call. So he was talking about the one and only smoothie pool. And not only was there a flurry of interest afterwards from solo stakers interested in how they could potentially join a smoothie pool, a few days later, earlier this week, there was a massive 42.6 ETH deposit into the smoothie pool, which, although I don't think we ever doubted the numbers and the calculations behind it, it was really nice to see that kind of validation there, pardon the pun, of how it can pay off by being a member of the smoothing pool. I guess it's a bit like a lottery, right? And that there's a pretty small chance that you will win the big prize, but to claim a share in all the payouts provides not only a smooth payment, but for most participants, a higher one, which is quite interesting because usually in the financial world, if you think about volatile assets like, for example, oil, companies will pay they will pay a cost to smooth out the volatility. So in this case, with the smoothing pool, you're not only getting that smoothed reward, but your average reward will be higher as well. So it really seemed like a no-brainer. And then, although it was before Ken's talk, probably for many people, kind of the highlight was the panel that Langers was a part of.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So there was also the talk from Langers about how to build a decentralized staking protocol. But before that, there was the panel with a few different staking protocols, and there was a bit of a flurry of activity after that all over crypto Twitter, with a little bit of a back and forth that spawned some great memes, some great media coverage by the Defiant, the Daily Gwei, and one or two other smaller kind of publications. We could probably talk for a long time recapping that. Maybe that's a topic for tomorrow. And then I'll quickly run through a few of the final points. There was a deposit from Gnosis DAO, so they staked some of their treasury with Rocket Pool. I think we mentioned it in the previous Biweekly about Arrow approving or
That's
voting.
Right. Yep.
But since that update, they have subsequently executed that transaction and also staked some of their treasury with Rocket Pool. From memory, they were both 500 ETH or around that anyway. So decent deposit sizes there. We had a tweet recently from Uphold saying that they have supported the RPL token. And then
Uphold being a decent or somewhat questionably sized centralized exchange.
Yeah, that's the one. So, on that point, probably important to comment that this wasn't something that the Rocket Pool team worked with Uphold on at all. This is kind of news to us. They've decided to support us, which is always welcome, but it doesn't imply any degree of validation from Rocket Pool in terms of using that service. But regardless, great to see obviously RPL being noticed. And then there's a little piece out from Coinpedia. They reckon RPL might be a pretty good token to hold, not financial advice. Since they published it, I think the number's gone up a little bit more. So I don't know, maybe they're onto something. Maybe not.
I believe on this market bounce, RPL led the top 100 tokens as on CoinGecko. So maybe they were onto something.
Wow, love to see that. And then that takes us to the last point, which is something Lang has spotted. I honestly don't know if this is something new or it's been around for a little while. And I didn't pick up on it, but we've kind of popped up into one of the largest DeFi protocols by TVL as measured by DeFi Llama. And last time I checked, we were around number 19. But if you filter that for protocols on Ethereum, we jump even higher to around the 13 mark, which puts us just behind some of obviously the largest names in the space. So that's pretty exciting to see.
And it would be really cool if we could look at the delta, because I bet if we were looking at rate of TVL growth, looking at only all the mega caps, we would be either number one or near the top.
Oh yeah, and then also now that you mentioned that, worth noting, there's another metric they have. Let me find it. It was the relationship between market cap and TVL. I'm pretty sure that was quite favorable for us as well. But yeah, to kind of circle back to where we started out, some great growth metrics coming out from Rocket Pool, and not only that, it's kind of I think the third biweekly where we've seen these really strong growth figures. So to be able to sustain it over a period of what is now 6 weeks and counting is also great to see. And yeah, with that, if there are any final questions, we can take them now very briefly, but anything more in depth is probably best carried over to the weekly chit chat, which is going to be tomorrow at 6 a.m. my time. I think that's 5 p.m. UTC, but in any case, it is listed as an event in the Rocket Pool Discord. So that's Europe-friendly time zone. In fact, it's or Europe-friendly time. I think the only time zone it is unfriendly for is Australia and a bit of Asia. So yeah, look forward to chatting with everyone then. And if we don't have any questions, I guess we can call it a wrap at 1 hour 35 minutes.
It was a wonderful chat today. We got to hear from Langers about the bi-weekly and this progress on the Atlas feature freeze. And then we had a wonderful chat with Blair from Block Native about how they operate a relay that is one of the most reliable. So if you are a validator, either through Rocket Pool or solo staking, definitely consider using the Block Native relay. And then Maverick joined me as we finished recapping the bi-weekly update. So wonderful call. We'll be back at you soon enough with another community call. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.